Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I want to go a little bit more in depth on the brand new Link 3 that just got revealed for Phantom Nightmare. It is pretty generic. It's obviously like a pretty important fire support card. Just any deck that's like fire-based, but there's particular archetypes and generic cards that I think give this card the most of its value. And so I want to talk about that stuff and kind of go a little bit more in depth into where this card's value really comes through. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about archetypes it helps. We're talking about generic cards that it can potentially help take advantage of and go on from there. So we got to start by looking at this card and going over really quick what this card's effects are. So this is Prisoner Princess of Fruitful Flames. She has really cool artwork. I love that. She's a Link 3 Fire Fiend Link effect monster. 2700 attack. She points left, down, and right. So she only has one arrow down, but it's directly down, so that's fine. She takes any 2 or more effect monsters. This is kind of a key part here. The fact that this card does not even require fire monsters to make, yet it is still like a fire support card, is kind of nice because it means certain generic engines and other parts of engines that are like decks that aren't fully fire can still make this. And that's like definitely an interesting piece here. Then it has 2 hard once per turn effects, the second and third effect. The first one says you cannot special summon monsters except fire. Keep in mind this restriction is only while this card is face up on the field. So once you link this away, remove it from the field somehow, you are not under that restriction anymore. And that's why this card also is interesting, because you don't lock yourself for the entire turn into fires or anything like that. It's just while this card's on the field, which is really nice. You could definitely work around that. Second effect, during your main phase, just special summon a fire monster from grave. Doesn't even target. I didn't even mention that in the video. That's crazy. So yeah, just summons back any fire that can be link monsters, exceeds, synchros, whatever, as well as main deck monsters. So really, really powerful effect there. And the last effect, the icing on the cake here. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field while this card is engraved, just at any time your opponent special summons, you can target 1 fire monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy them, and if you do, special summon this card. Really good. So not only does it bring itself back to potentially use its effect again on your next turn to keep extending, keep the resources coming, but it's just a straight up interruption. I mean, it just pops a monster when your opponent tries to summon, which is really good. You have to pop one of your own monsters, so that's definitely a key piece here as well. We'll be looking into that, some good popping targets. But yeah, all in all, it's a crazy card. I can't even believe that this card doesn't banish itself when it leaves the field next. So this card just goes to grave again and just sets up that same interruption all over again. This card is so incredibly strong for being a generic Link 3. So yeah, that's basically the gist of what the card does. Now let's move into the best, most interesting cards to take advantage of it with. So we're going to start with the archetypes, and I kind of go in order of like relevancy, more or less. It's loose relevancy. It's not super tight, but the more important ones are at the beginning. We'll get to some fringe ones after that, and then we'll get to the more generic cards that could take advantage of this engine as well, or this monster. So first is Salam Great. I think this is the single most important archetype to consider here, because one of the knocks on Salam Great always is just that its boards are not quite strong enough, right? Their boards are fine. They're consistent, they have a lot of recurability, but they're just slow. They don't do enough fast enough, and the fact that the deck already that just link climbs into Raging Phoenix anyway makes it so that like now you just get to end with an extra interruption plus follow-up, plus on the way to Raging Phoenix it got you an extra body back. So now maybe you're ending on 2 links instead of just Raging Phoenix sometimes, which is huge, because if you just end on Raging Phoenix, then it means like any single removal card or kaiju kind of just single-handedly like turns off a lot of your board. But being able to end on multiple cards is much more powerful. So that's really good. And then just the grindability. I mean, it's even more grindability there, so it's huge. Helps them link climb, gives them extra interruption, making their boards stronger without like needing any more. Like this card just slides perfectly into Salad, I think. And also adds more grindability, so love it. It fits so well with the deck for sure. Next up is Rescue Ace. This deck already takes advantage of like generic link monsters. It doesn't even have its own extra deck cards, but it still goes into the extra deck a good amount, taking advantage of stuff like SP Little Knight pretty regularly and stuff like that. But they also play Sunlight Wolf for the grind game, and their whole deck is fire, so being able to reborn stuff is pretty nasty. there's also like the benefit of like some people are just going to try to pop Turbulence before he gets a chance to use his effect and hope you don't have a way to get him back out. In which case you could potentially just make this guy and this girl, I guess, and reborn him and then fire him then and still win. There's other benefits too, but like just the fact that this card just gives you grind, gives you the ability to you know, push through certain stuff is pretty nice, and Rescue Ace has a pretty flexible extra deck too, so I think it could easily find a slot in here as well. Next up is Volcanic. This one just makes super simple sense. It's Volcanic. They're a whole fire deck. They just want to keep extending. This is a really helpful card to just help them extend further than they do normally. It's really good, especially for something like Volcanic Rocket, where this is not always a good card turn one. But being able to like add Tri-Blaze Accelerator, is it Tri-Blaze? No, what's the trap? The trap one that lets you discard. Like being able to search, that's really nice. If you already got like the rest of your stuff with like the main normal summon, the new one, Trooper. So being able to like start with Trooper and then later on send Rocket and reborn it off of this to get the search off of Rocket as well is actually pretty nice. So that's pretty cool. There's definitely some use here. I like it. In Volcanics, they definitely need that extra engine pushing as well. Infernoids got to be thrown on this list for sure, especially since just however many times they can make that Link 1, they just get more and more negates, more and more pops. So being able to like reborn a Charles and just link it off again for the Link 1 and just continue to go from there is crazy. You know, there's certain combo pieces I think that aren't fire that can be annoying here, but like people are already playing like Ra 10, and now I'm like, why even play Ra 10 if you can play this? By the time you're going into Ra 10, like you don't care about being locked into fire at that point. So it just really isn't that big of a deal to me. I think it's pretty powerful, and I think it's probably good enough to play in the deck for sure. Infernoids have to be thrown in here. I think the biggest thing is that Decatron's not once per turn, so not only can you normal summon Decatron, but the Snake Eye engine gives you like 3 separate ways to special summon Decatron, aside from normal summon, like straight from the deck with the Evil Eye. It's searchable off of the Snake Eye spell. The Snake Eye Excel can just search it out of the deck, and then you can normal it. So it gets easier access to it, and it can be reborned off of Oak as well. And then there's stuff like Muckraker that can generically reborn it, and now this card as well. And this card fits really, really well, I think. I have to double check to make sure the new Link monster is a fire. It should be, because I think like everything in Infernoids is fire, but I just want to be sure. This card really helps you Link climb into it. It just really does, right? Get Tat, you can reborn any fire engrave, and then boom, make him. Much easier with like more efficient Link summoning, so that's really nice. I think the card makes perfect sense to go in the deck. I don't see why you wouldn't play it. Fire Kings. This one maybe has this, other than Salads, like the best overall synergy, because not only is this deck fire-based and it has a super open extra deck, but this deck is all about destroying your own stuff. So when you interrupt your opponent on your opponent's turn by destroying your own Fire King, you're probably floating off of that, right? So you're floating, you're interrupting your opponent. This card gives you follow-up next turn. This is a really nice card. I can't imagine this doesn't find room in Fire Kings. I just have to assume so. And then for some fringe ones, you know, Brotherhood of the Fire Fist. It's all fire stuff, like cool. It's a good extender. I still don't think this deck's very good, but it's an all fire deck that's like, it does some things. Same thing for heavy metal foes. It's probably like the 12th best, you know, pendulum deck in the game right now. But if you're a fan of it, this is a nice card for them, being able to just let you keep putting bodies on the field, so that's cool. And then we get to some more generic type cards. So the first one in the generic card section is Gren Maju to Iza. This one was interesting to me because, like, in Gren Maju, like, sometimes if somebody has an answer to remove your Gren Maju, you're kind of in trouble. But at least if you can Link climb into this, you can just reborn Gren Maju and then punch for game. Not only that, but, like, you also have a 27 body right next to this card as well to help, you know, threaten your opponent for even more damage. It's decent. It's whatever. It's just for Gren Maju decks, but have a ball. Bury Statue of the Inferno. If you can just find a way to load this in grave, you can just generically reborn this. Not bad. Not great. It's something to keep in mind. And then for the Extrix stuff. So, like, honestly, the main deck stuff wasn't that important. There's not too many just, like, generic good fire cards to reborn. It's more archetype-based, which we already went over. So, into the extra deck stuff. Almarash, I think, is important to note because This card's restriction is only while he's on the field, so there's no restriction by going into anything aside from fire before or even after you clear him off the field. But if you're playing a deck that can just like set up Almirage Engrave early super easily, then he can just be your reborn target just to get that material back, just so you can make another link and set up the interruption engrave. I could easily see decks doing that if they're just good at link summoning. This is just a good like way to like go about that. So I think it's fine. I think it's solid. Just something to keep in mind that it's such an easy fire monster to put engrave no matter what. Dual Chimera, this is a card that like really has never seen much play, but I think this card single-handedly makes this card a lot more interesting. So unlike Heat to the Fire Charmer, this card says if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, just period, it can add a fire monster from grave back to hand, whereas Heat to has to be destroyed by an opponent's card. This guy does not. So you can pop it with your own cards. You can link the link 3 away for this card, and then this guy will float when you do it. So not only is the link 3 back on field for next turn to get a free summon back, but Chimera is also adding you a fire back, which could even be like an Ash Blossom, and you know, you're getting an interruption out of it. So it's a pretty good combination there. I think he's actually a pretty decent card to consider for that, like for this little package, I guess. You still have to consider Hita, because like especially if your opponent does have a fire engraved, then like even just putting 2 monsters on the field lets you make this. Reborn your opponent's Ash Blossom, we'll say. Make the link 3. The link 3 reborns Hita, and now you can link those 2 away for like Dual Chimera or something, right? It just helped you climb, helped you get there easier. We all know the Charmer Link 2s are good cards, so something to keep in mind. Sunlight Wolf is another one, for sure. We're already seeing with stuff like Rescue Ace, where it's probably the first legitimate instance where a non-Salam Great deck takes advantage of Sunlight Wolf, but it's just another good target here. You get to reborn him, and then if you're able to link off the link 3 for something that isn't Sunlight Wolf, like with another monster that isn't Sunlight Wolf, then like it'd be above Sunlight Wolf, and it could actually trigger him to get you an add back. So you get an add back, you get the interruption, more follow-up. It's pretty solid. Proxy F Magician. This one's an interesting one because if you like maybe link climb with Proxy F to get to the link 3, then you reborn Proxy F. Proxy F can use them both as material for a fusion summon. Now, it'd have to be a fire fusion, so I don't know if that becomes too specific and it's not good enough and there's no good targets. I have no idea, but that's still kind of interesting. There definitely could be something there, so figured I'd throw it in. Nightmare Phoenix, just a generic good fire link 2, so if you were like going second versus a deck and you went through the link 3, link it off for this to like pop stuff, and now he's engrave and you have Phoenix to interrupt your opponent on their turn. Simple enough. Pit Knight early. This guy's kind of cool because if he is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon him on the during the end phase, so you kind of just get him back for free, which is pretty cool. So that's an interesting one. And then the last one here is Amphibious Swarm Ship, a Blow Whale. There's really no great link 4s. This guy's okay. And interesting to note, he gains 200 attack for every link monster in the grave, which would probably be at least 1 or 2. So he does get up to like 3k, which is nice. And if he's destroyed, period, you can target a link 3 or lower monster in either grave and special summon it. So that's kind of nice as well. Not only would you like potentially destroy this card to interrupt your opponent and get the link 3 back, but then you'd be able to like summon another one. Now it would have to be fire because you'd already have the link 3 back by the time this is triggering, but still. And then this card also gets a punish if like a link 3 or lower monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect. You get to banish this card to destroy another card on field, which is pretty nice, to be honest. That's decent value. So this card does become a little more interesting with this package, but of course you're taking up extra deck spaces for all of these cards if you don't already have like another use for them, or if you're playing them in a deck that already kind of has some tighter space. That's definitely something to keep in mind. But all in all, like really cool card. I want to just go over like a generic list of the things that I think are the most interesting. So if you're somebody who plays any of those decks or are interested in any of those decks, this is a brand new tool for them, and I think almost all of them would immediately try to find room for this, or at least start theorying for it and see if it's worth it at the very least. So really cool stuff. Can't wait to see what people come up for with this card. I mean, 2023, year of fire, man. Konami's coming through. Like, honestly, they have not held back. They are clearly trying to make fire decks way better, and they've been pretty successful, so good for them. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know your thoughts down below on this card, as well as if there's anything else that I didn't mention in this video that may have slipped through the cracks that is worth noting for this card. An archetype can be played in, a generic card that could be something to take advantage of. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that stuff down below. But I'll see you in the next one. Peace.